What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Circles and Squares news report for Monday, May 16th, 2022. I'm James, that's Katie, and that makes this part of the Circles and Squares podcast. I don't know if I should say network. Are we a network, Kate? Like, what is this? Channel? It's a brand. It's a thing.
Channel, it's a brand. It's like, it's an ethereal environment,
Let's go
that
with
we
that. This
live
is
in.
part of the Circles and Squares ethereal environment. And we are so glad you're joining us for the show today to talk about some of the latest news for PlayStation and the rest of the game industry. So we're going to do just that in probably about half an hour or so. Before we get into that, I want to remind everyone we made our grand return to podcasting last week, and we had a big episode that kind of turned into a giant Detroit Become Human review that was kind of expected, but also like we went really hard into that game's story and some of the themes behind it. And so I really encourage you to go check that one out, especially if you've already played Detroit, because we do go into a little bit of spoiler territory, I'd say. But it was a good episode. Thanks for the support on that one. And as per usual on our news show, we're going to start off by talking about the PlayStation news from the last couple of weeks, followed by just general games industry news, and then we'll close it out with a kind of lighter side story at the end. So look forward to that to close the show out. To start off the show today, Kate, we have a bit of a disappointing article or some sad news to get out of the way, I guess. And this is something that's been you know a big talking point, I guess, over the last couple of days within gaming, and it relates all to the abortion rights going on in the States, and just it's a giant human rights thing, and obviously there's a lot more to be said on it than we're going to say on this show, other than from the lens of what's happened with PlayStation. Jim Ryan had sent a email out about basically asking companies to respect all viewpoints and opinions, even though this is clearly a giant human rights violation and a health concern for like half the population of America. And I think by making a non-stance, he really was kind of making a stance that he didn't want to support these kind of progressive human rights from going away, especially. And it was weird too, like Bungie came out in support of like women's right to choose, and that's a studio owned by PlayStation. So to see Jim Ryan come out and kind of have a non-statement and then sort of just trivialize the statement that he made by going on and talking about his cat's birthdays in the same email, many PlayStation staff, I guess, were angry and upset. I'm just reading through the Kotaku article here from a couple days ago, and so just wanted to call attention to that. And I mean, this is just the kind of thing where it's like, man, I hope you'd be a little bit more, human focused than this, Jim Ryan. But if you're not, like, at least why would you even go out of your way to say this in the first place? Like, you're just stepping on rakes in your front yard.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where the headline of his article it is funny, like, it should be funny. It's like, "Oh, we're gonna dodge, like, an extremely big social issue and talk about my cats." So, like, it almost reads like an Onion article to me
Right? Yeah.
because, like, it's just so weird and, like, it's the juxtaposition's just kind of bizarre, and, like, it's really, like, difficult to handle because, like, on one side, I'm sure he's got, like, a huge HR department
Hmm.
that's like, you can't make, um, really, like, extreme political statements just in general, and so, like, I could understand from that side of it not really wanting to have that be, like, a work specific topic or issue, and so, like, nothing about what he said is bad in the sense of, like, I think everybody's opinions generally should be, like, accepted, and it shouldn't matter with your work performance, but at the same time, this is, like, really not a gray area issue. I think it's
Yeah.
very
Right.
clearly black and white of, like, don't take away people's rights, that's fucked up, and, like, yeah, you work at a video game company, it's not, like, necessarily, like, in your area, and, like, you're not necessarily someone who's, like, just because you are kind of famous doesn't mean you have to have an opinion and be, like, an activist on everything, but at the same time, like, no, fuck this. Like, everybody just pick the smart choice, and, like, I just don't understand, like, we are v all this stuff going on, I've just thought to myself, like, we're very lucky to live in Canada because it's almost, like, surreal to hear what kinda stuff was going on down in the States.
I know it's crazy. I just can't, like, what other country in the world is like considering taking away some of these progressive
Well,
rights, like it's
the
just so
crazy
backwards.
thing about it too is, like, America is supposed to be this, like, progressive, like, first world leading country, right? Like, a lot of countries follow suit. They're often the first to do things in these, like, massive world leader, and you think of them, or at least they have this, like, I mean, obviously, we make fun of them in the media a lot, like, they're kind of the butt of a lot of jokes, maybe rightly deserved, but, like, you think of them as, like, a, first world country, but this is very not first world country kind of stuff that's happening, and yeah,
Right. Yeah.
it's
It's,
insane.
yeah, I don't know. I
And
mean,
it's just a shame because someone like, you know, Jim and, like, other people in the industry, like, yeah, it's video games, it's not related to politics, but, like, you do have a platform and people are listening to you, and if you stand up and you hopefully, support, people's rights, like, people hear that and it does matter to some people, so
well, that's the thing, right? I think you just hit the nail on the head. Is like when you have a platform like that, I think that people will listen and take your opinion to heart. Like it's the reason that I don't know, like you would I flip it over to Xbox. Like I wouldn't, Phil Spencer, I wouldn't imagine him coming out and standing like in a gray area in terms of like these type of rights and people's freedoms. Like it seems like such a contrast how he would deal with it. I mean, that's totally an assumption, but
mhm,
just judging based on kind of you know past history and stuff. But anyway, I mean, this letter is what it is. We hope that things go better in terms of other studios that come out and talk. Like I said, Bungie had a really good statement. They linked to a bunch
mhm,
of places you can donate,
yeah.
and kind of work towards a solution, and hopefully allow people to continue having right to choose. And um, that would be that one, I guess. But yeah, Jim, smarten up, dude. Come on,
Yeah,
you're
Jim, smart enough, but also happy birthday to your
smart enough.
cats, like,
Happy
that
birthday
that
to your
is nice.
cats. In all
Happy birthday to your
seriousness,
cats.
I do hope your cats had a good birthday, but maybe
Yeah.
next time just wait a couple days and send a separate email. Don't trivialize human rights issues along with your cat's birthdays, okay, bud? Like that's a bad look. It's a really bad look. Um, all right, let's talk about some more video game centric stuff, Kate. Let's move
Mhm.
along. Our next story we have here is actually the top downloaded games from April 2022 on the PlayStation Store. Anyone who's listened to us for any length of time knows that sometimes we like to go over these sales lists, just have a little look see because it can be fun to see some surprising games at the top. And so I'm just going to go through. They've got the top 20 games listed. We'll go US and Canada. There's the European sales as well. So but for US and Canada, number one on PS5 this month, or I guess last month in April, was Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, followed by number two, MLB The Show 22, number three, Elden Ring. Then it goes WWE 2K22, Tiny Tina's Wonderland, NBA 2K22, Cyberpunk 2077, Gran Turismo 7, Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, and number 10 is Madden NFL 22. I don't know if I'm gonna read the last 10, I guess, but man, are you surprised? Lego Star Wars taking out um everything. Like, wow, I mean, Star Wars is popular, but I wouldn't have expected that to be number one.
Honestly, the more I think about it, the less surprised I am. Like, the LEGO games are beloved in general, and Star Wars is obviously, like, one of the biggest franchises, and so, like, this is, like, a cool collection. I think people were really looking forward to this, like, 3-game collection. So, like, I'm kinda not surprised, like, it just came out, it's super exciting. The ones that always get me are the sports games, like MLB,
Mm,
like, they're always, like, the top 5 is 2
yeah.
different sports games, and I know they do well, but, like, I just personally don't really know people who play them or care about them at all, and so they always surprise me because it's, like, the only time I hear about sports games is looking at these lists, and, like, there's at least 2 in the top 5,
If not more.
if
It's
not more.
interesting. Yeah, I guess it just goes to show, like, despite how connected we are to like following video games, there's such a huge, I guess, like, I don't know if you call them a casual audience, but there's so many people that will just buy a console and play like a battle royale of choice and their sports franchise of choice, and
Mhm,
like that's what they play. And I think that's just such a huge segment of people that would never come on a Reddit and talk about a game or like watch this
mhm.
podcast or anything, but they're out there like everywhere. They must be. um
Yeah.
the interesting part about MLB The Show 22 to me is being the second highest selling on PS5 is that game is free on Game Pass.
Oh,
Isn't
really?
it? I thought it was free on Game Pass for a while,
Oh,
or maybe not
no.
free, but it's on Xbox as well now, which is
Right.
kind of interesting. The other interesting
Yeah.
part too, just
Hmm.
going down to the PS4 sales, is on PS4. MLB The Show actually is number one, and it beat Lego Star Wars. So I don't know what that says about Lego Star Wars being more popular on PS5, but kind of strange. Is there anything here that completely surprises you out of nowhere? Because I always like to look for.
I not a surprise. We got to shout out Elden Ring. Like it's obviously still killing it in third place. What kind of surprised me was for Horizon Forbidden West is on here, but it's down in 12th place.
Yeah,
And that kinda surprised me because, like, yeah, it's not necessarily, like, new anymore, like, usually with these games, you or with these lists that are, like, month specific, you expect to see, like, the big games that came out that month doing the best, and, like, sure, Lego Star Wars, like, might not have more sales than Elden Ring in general, but it will in the month that it came out because,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
the
It's
big
brand
Elden
new,
Rings
and
already yeah, big Elden Ring fans already own Elden Ring, but, like, now we're buying Lego Star Wars. Um, but, like, Horizon Forbidden West was a massive game that came out, and it's below, like, a lot of RPGs that have also been out for a while, like, Miles Morales has been
yeah,
around for
yeah.
longer, and it's still selling more than, Forbidden West, so that was kinda surprising.
Yeah, I agree. And the one that surprises me the most, and along the same vein that I was going to say, was Kenna being at 19, because that's another game that, I mean, it's a great game. I really enjoy it, and I think that it got good reviews and everything. But it's been out for a while, and to see it still kind of hovering in that top 20 is kind of surprising as well. And I mean, the other surprising part to me is that Grand Theft Auto is down at 18. Like that game is such a juggernaut. You'd expect it to be
Yeah,
in the top 5, like on every list, which it is top 5 on the PS4. So again, difference between the consoles there, but
right. Right, I
interesting
wonder
stuff.
if some of these lists, because let's see. Yeah, I wonder how much this changed. And you know what's funny too is I look at these month lists and I was like, I wonder what was on sale. Like, was Miles Morales just like a really good sale for the month?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
many people were like, oh great, like it finally went on sale, I'll pick it up.
Well, I know Tiny Tina's is on sale right now, I think so, and that's at number
It's
5.
number
So
5.
that's probably got something to do with it. And Cyberpunk as well, I think, was on sale, and that's at 7. So yeah,
Right. So
sales I think
maybe
make a
that
big
plays into it. But
big
it's just
difference.
kind of fun looking at these, right? The
It
best
is.
part too is like you look at these and you're like, oh shit, I gotta play that. Like, ooh, yeah, I should play that.
I know. And then you're like, oh, where is it? Call of Duty. Maybe I'll skip that one yet. But Jedi Fallen Order below there. It's a good one.
Someone
Yeah.
sent me a link today about the new Call of Duty and Elden Ring. And what was it? It was like an IGN posted on Twitter, I think, and it said FromSoft latest has been the best-selling title in the last 12 months, even though it's only been out for 3. And it was like comparing Call of Duty and Elden Ring.
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting. Like I think I saw that too. Like there was an article saying, Elden Ring officially is mainstream. Like there's no doubt about it
Yeah,
now, based on the sales
absolutely.
numbers. And it's interesting. Like Call of Duty is having, I think, its worst numbers in a decade, and sort of that
Yeah.
shift.
You guys can stop doing your gatekeeping now. Everybody gets to play Elden Ring and it's awesome. And they need to get the Dark Souls servers back up so new people can go play
Right,
that
right.
too.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let's go to the next part of our show today, which is that. Um, so part of the new PlayStation Plus rollout that PlayStation is starting in the next couple of months is that certain games are going to be requiring um, demos to be included as part of the service. So as part of, I think, the highest tier subscription,
Mhm.
games are going to have mandatory demos that you can try out, and I guess before you buy them or go full in on the game. And
Mhm.
according to the report here that I'm reading from Eurogamer, it'll be required for any game that costs $34 or higher. So I guess they're kind of gating it off to higher budget titles. But it's interesting because we're kind of talking about this before, and on one hand, it's a really awesome thing for consumers to have these demos coming out, obviously, because who doesn't like to try something out? If you can try before you buy, or you're like, oh, maybe I'd only play this for an hour, like let me get my fill. Or for even like us, like if you, I'm thinking, if you were to buy a game that you want to talk about on the podcast, I don't really want to buy it, but I can go check out an hour or two of it on this demo and then have something
Right.
to talk about with you. That's a great
Mhm.
opportunity for us. But then on the flip side, it's interesting sort of demanding that of the developers, because that's going to add um, a certain amount of work to their plate, depending on what that demo looks like for them, what type of game they're making. Is it multiplayer? Is it narrative? How do you incorporate that into a short demo? And so that could maybe even make the development process more stressful for the developers. So it's a bit of a push and pull, but
Yeah.
it's an interesting way they've set this up,
Well,
I guess.
there's also a problem too, is, like, I wonder what games might not become part of this collection of, like, the library for, PlayStation's Game Pass because they didn't wanna bother with the demo. So I don't know, I'm kinda mulling it over in my mind, like, the compromise is just, like, make it so you can play an hour for free, and then the developer doesn't have to, like, do anything extra. It's just you as a player, you have an hour, like, when you start, the game clock starts ticking. If you turn it off, clock pauses, you have an hour, and then your time with it goes away. Is
Yeah.
maybe, like, the compromise, but at the same time and I think that works for most games because typically when you're playing a demo, like, you don't really want to you just wanna kinda, like, get your feet wet, you wanna see how it feels, and you wanna kinda get a judge of the atmosphere, and typically, like, an hour might do that. But at the same time, like, that doesn't really work great with every game, and it's like, well, if it's a really narrative-driven game, does it just you just skip cutscenes, or do you watch, like, cutscenes for 20 minutes, then have 40 minutes to play? Like, it's just kinda it's awkward for certain types of games that don't really, like, lend itself well to that first hour being the biggest judge of the game.
Mhm. Yeah,
So, I don't know, it's kinda clunky, like,
it
it's a
is
little
clunky, and
clunky.
just reading through this article too, it's clunky in the way that Sony seems to be rolling it out on the developers too. Like they're saying
Mhm.
here the rule is not retroactive; it only applies to games that are not yet released. That makes sense. But also,
Mhm.
the developers will have a 3 month grace period after the game launches to get the demo available. So it's almost like they're admitting they know this is going to be a lot of work on the devs. So it's like, well,
Yeah.
on the one hand, why would you not want the demo out at the start? But it's like they're admitting it's going to be a lot of work. And then further on down the article, it also says that Sony has told the developers that it should be available for at least 12 months. And an alternate custom demo can be provided, not needing to be 2 hours long, but it would need to be approved on a case by case basis. So they're before these demos even exist, they're kind of already being like, oh, there's ways to kind of go around this and make it more individual to your game. And
Mhm.
so it's weird that they're putting out sort of these rules and then really saying, it could also just be whatever kind of form you want it to be. Um, yeah, it seems like it's very clunky. I think that's a good word, like you said.
It's just awkward. The other thing too I'm thinking is, like, what is the demo for? Like, if you're buying Game Pass, like, are these games not on the Game Pass?
No, they're
Because why do
not.
you
They're
need it?
not.
So you
So
okay, so you're getting a demo, but
yeah,
then you go out and buy the game. But
that's
then
right.
it's like, well, what's the point? Like, if I'm a developer, like, why don't I just make a demo and put it on the store myself instead of, like,
Yeah. Well, that's what I
getting
think.
through
That's what
this
they're saying is
awkward
like it's like
loophole?
no matter if you want to make a demo or not. Maybe some developers were going to do this anyway. It won't change anything for them. But then other ones are
Yeah.
going to be forced into creating this.
I don't know. The
Interesting.
more I think about, like, this demo thing as part of, like, the tier, I just don't like it. Like, just give us games. That's why we're buying a subscription service, right, with a library. That's the whole point. Is if it's in the library, I can play it for an hour, that's my own demo, and then never play it again. But, like, if I'm gonna be buying the game anyway, then I'm just buying a game. I don't need the subscription service to give me a demo to, like,
Yeah.
consider buying a game outside of the subscription I'm paying for, and it's just weird, and I don't like it, and I think it's like I just don't think it's worth paying that extra little bit a month for some demos.
Yeah, I mean, I think you get it's the last tier is like you get the retro games and the demos, right? So it's really
Yeah.
kind of that cherry on top for the really really hardcore people. I mean, I personally like I said before when we talked about these different tiers, I think the demos as a consumer it's awesome because I mean, I want to try as many things as I can. The part that doesn't make any sense to me is I think the demos should be on the cheapest part of PlayStation Plus because you're just going to have more people trying your games, more people wanting to buy them.
Right.
Like I think if you're subscribing to the highest tier of PS Plus and you want to try like the God of War Ragnarok demo, like damn well that person's already gonna buy God of War Ragnarok. They're subscribing to PS
Yeah.
Plus Premium. Give the demo to people on the cheapest deal, the people that just want to go on there and play like one game, those people that are playing Madden and Fortnite and that's it. Like maybe they
Yeah.
could try the God of War
That
demo and then want to buy it.
that makes a lot more sense, and to be honest, like, even the more you say that and the more I think about it too, it's like, why are we, like, paying for demos? Like, the whole point of a demo is it's a commercial, like, it's an advertisement to then buy a game. So, like, we're paying to get access to the advertisement so that we're enticed to buy your game? Like, no, it's an ad. Like, what am I gonna do? Be like, "Yeah, yeah, I'll pay 30 cents to get that YouTube ad, please, just in case I wanna buy, like, Vessi sneakers." Like, no. Like, no, I'm gonna buy the sneakers or I'm not. Like,
Yeah,
it's so weird. It's so strange.
it is.
I just don't get it, and, like, I think developers are gonna be annoyed by this, and that sucks because, like, I don't know. The game, yeah, we didn't have an extra 3 weeks to develop the game better because 'cause we're making this shitty demo, like,
I know. It's good.
who
I'm
wins?
looking forward to seeing if, there any kind of interviews that come out with developers, or how do they feel about this, because I haven't seen too much, but I mean,
Yeah.
we're also a little bit of ways away from it happening too, so
Mhm.
it'll be an ongoing topic, I think. But for now, our next topic is a new PS5 model in development? Question mark. First of all, of course, there's a new PS5 model in development. They're always working on the next thing.
Yeah.
But I guess the interesting part of what we're talking about here is that um, Sony apparently in Japan has registered a revised PS5 model. This is coming from PlayStation Lifestyle, although it's been discussed in a few different places. And apparently, a lot of this, I mean, if you're a technical person, I am not. I don't know anything about these chipsets and all this stuff. So you can go read this for yourself if you're interested. But um, apparently, a lot of people over at Digital Foundry and whatnot have seen this new model, and apparently, it's not really a noticeable performance difference within the system. It's more of like using alternate cooling things, or I think potentially using a different chipset that might be easier to get to make the consoles, just because there's still the shortage going on. So I think it's more of like a sidestep rather than a brand new console. Although a second part of this, just over on Pocket Lint, there is reports that AMD is working with a new chipset as well, and they're kind of talking about a PS5 Pro, and working on the timeline of the PS4, how it's kind of that 2-year mark where we start to hear about the Pro versions of the consoles. But again, it's kind of just all speculation. And to me, it seems like, just because the lack of consoles out there and the difficulty they're having creating them, it's like it makes sense they're trying to find an alternate way to create more, um, whether it's a pro or not.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, like, I mean, a regular consumer wouldn't know the difference, right? As long as it runs the same, like, I don't care what chip is in there, like, I'm not
Yeah.
opening it up, I'm not looking inside of it. If it runs the same, that's great, like, I mean, as long as they test that. It would suck to say, like, if you bought one, I'm assuming they're gonna cost the same price, and, like, you might not even know which version you're getting, so it definitely suck if, like, one is significantly worse than the other. But if this is just a sidestep or if it's just an upgrade, I think that's awesome because, like, I bought my PlayStation 5 when they dropped because I wanted one early. Like, I understand that that means that I have, like, the base version of the system, and if they come out with new better stuff, that's just better for people who waited. So,
Yeah, we knew what we were getting into when we bought
yeah.
them right away, but that's the nature of the beast, right? I think this is interesting because I don't know if you remember, but a couple years ago there was sort of that Switch revision that came out, and it was the same as the base model Switch, but I think it had a different battery or something, or like a
Okay.
slightly different chip that used less power. So there was actually um two technically different Switches out there, one with a slightly better battery life, but they were both just modeled the Switch. It wasn't like an official redesign. But
Right.
you'd have to go to the store and like look at the serial number on the box, and if it
To
was a
figure out
certain
what kind it
certain
was.
serial number, you could tell if it was like newer or older. So I wonder, is there a universe where it's like, this isn't a PS5 Pro, but this new heatsink that we found actually is a little bit more efficient and loads like slightly faster or something. I wonder if that could ever
Mhm.
be possible.
I mean, hey, if they're making little upgrades and they're not charging extra for it, then that's just a good thing. Like, I'm sure there'll be those salty people that like, "Oh, but mine was worse and I paid the same amount of money." It's like, "Oh, fuck it." Like,
You
it's
could have
just
waited,
better for
dude. You
people.
could have waited.
It's just better.
Yeah, it's fine. You'll upgrade eventually anyway. Just let people have their better version. It doesn't make
Mhm.
change for you. Yeah, interesting though. Do you think you would buy the PS5 Pro when it comes out, or how are you feeling about that?
I really don't think so. I mean, I think my PS5 runs amazingly. I've had like 0 issues on any game I've played. They've all ran amazing. They're all like beautiful. Um, and I think for me too, like I play on PC as my default system, so like my PlayStation gets used more for, like, exclusives than it does for anything else, and so, like, they're it's just the PS5 is already such a good value, like, yeah, maybe something runs a little bit better, and, like, I did have the Pro for the 4, which I did notice a big difference in, so, like, maybe when it gets closer to the end of its life cycle, it's more valuable, but I find the 5 is just so powerful, and it, like, runs like a little PC anyway that I don't think the upgrade would be that incremental, so
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think the only thing that would change it for me is I'm really interested in getting PSVR 2.
right.
I think that's going to be awesome, and I'm kind of really banking on that being my next kind of big thing. But I don't know, like if there's any universe where it runs better with the Pro, that I might consider like going all in on that. But
Mhm.
that's kind of the one thing I'm thinking, actually making the upgrade, because it's just so expensive otherwise. Like buying another
Yeah.
$500 console, and I know
It's
you can
hard
sell
to
your old one, but
justify.
it's a lot of
Yeah.
money, right? And
It is hard to justify when you already have one, right? Like, the dream of the Pro is that you wait and you pick you're like a later adopter and you just buy the Pro instead of,
mhm,
picking up the console 'cause it does feel like a waste, but
yeah, it does.
at the
Well,
same
yeah,
and yeah, it's hard to go back though, like, it's also one of those things too, it's like, if I don't have it, I don't know what I'm missing out on, but, like,
right.
now that I have a Pro, if I go and, like, play the regular PS4 after the Pro, it's like, "Oh."
Yeah, I know. I never got the
"Oh,
Pro
you guys are."
PS4, but
Yeah.
I think like usually my thing is I skip like one iteration, so I won't get the
Mhm.
Pro, but then I'll get a Slim or like whatever comes out next.
Right.
And so it's just, we'll see. Um, that's all the PlayStation news we have for this week. So let's move into the out of town area of the show, where we have a presentation to go over, one of our very favorite things. So we had Nintendo Indie World a couple days ago, and they showed off well, about 20 games, I think, right,
20
on
games,
over
yeah.
the time. So I mean, we're not going to go over everything shown. It wasn't maybe the most impressive indie world we've seen in the last few months, but we'll go over the stuff that really stuck out to us. So I'll give you the floor first, Kate. What was the thing that you noticed the most?
Okay. So I mean there we can't get away without talking about another Crab's Treasure. Like, I was gonna say that at the end, but we
Yes,
gotta
yes.
talk about that. That was a big finale of the presentation, and I watched it in, like I don't think I blinked the entire time I watched that trailer. So, like, I have a feeling it's not gonna be good, but, like, there's a universe in which it is good, and I think I am obligated to play it. So, if anyone hasn't seen it, you should look up because it's a really fun trailer, but it's basically like a cute cartoon game where you're a crab, but it's a Souls-like. They hit you with, like, the most intense music, and he's going into boss battles, and you've got this cute mechanic where, like, you're a little crab, so you put, like, different types of trash and, like, various objects on your back to make your little crab shell, which is super cute.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. I think the also like the little interstitials they did with the developers was they were actually
Yeah,
really funny. Like those guys really pulled off the comedy in a way that sometimes a lot of those jokes are like, "Oh my god, that was a little awkward,"
yeah.
kind of
Well,
laughing at them.
the developer Aggro Crab, I believe the other game that they've made is, Going Under, which
Okay.
I haven't played, but I've heard really good things about it. It's like a satire, it's like a roguelike where you're kind of going through this, like, a tech startup kind of company, and that's the levels that you go through, and so it's just really much a play on, like, that kind of culture and kind of like a satirical breakdown of what it's like to work in that kind of, like, environment. It's like, "Oh, that's the young, like, intern, he hasn't gotten paid for the last 3 years," and, like, just, like, that kinda stuff, and so, I never played it, but I've heard really good things about it, so it's obviously a different type of game. I feel like the humor and, like, the design of the game is probably gonna be fantastic because this is another, like, satirical kind of take. It's just instead of the roguelike genre, now we're on to, like, the Souls-like genre.
Right.
So I think this game is gonna be delightful and, like, probably a blast for a couple hours. It just depends on how well it actually functions and feels in terms of a soul like to see if I, like, finish the game. But I definitely, like I saw this game and I was like, "I'm gonna have to buy it," and I showed it to a couple people and, like, the first thing everybody I showed it to said is like, "So you're getting it, right? Like, you have to play this game."
Yeah, you do. That's my
So
first thought
I
too.
do.
Like
I will play this,
my
absolutely.
prevailing thought from watching this entire indie world was, well, I remember you said to me, it's like, oh, it wasn't really the best indie world for me, but I saw that game and I was like, that is, out of all the games here, the most likely either of us are to play is going to be you, Crab Game. So
Yeah, I've
funny.
got to. I feel like it's an obligation, but I'm, like, excited about it as an
Good,
obligation,
good.
not, like, looking at it with trepidation, so
I'm glad to hear that. I want to shout out Elechead because I thought that
Yep.
game looked very cool. This is a one-person team, which I know is always just amazing. I mean, there's a lot of examples out there of games made by small teams, but every time you hear it, you're just kind of like, wow,
Yeah.
good for you, dude. Like making a game by yourself. But this game looks genuinely really cool. It sort of has like an NES kind of
Yeah.
look to it, but it's a puzzle game where you're essentially sort of a Mega Man type character, but instead of combat, your character is electrified, and it looks like when you touch certain aspects or jump on certain platforms, you power up sort of the things around you, and you're kind of puzzling your way through these levels and um, energizing different platforms so they move, and you can get across gaps, and you can also throw your head so you can energize stuff further away from you and sort of make your way through these puzzle levels. It just looks really interesting, and I don't think I've ever seen a game tackle puzzles kind of the way this one looks like it's doing. And so I really liked it. The art style was cool. Um, I'd like to play Elechead, Kate.
Good. I'm glad you said that because when I was watching it, that game came up. I was like, "Ooh, that's a game James is gonna wanna play." So I did what you did with the crab for this game.
Right.
But it does look cool. That to me is like the embodiment of indie games is a game like Elechead because it's just so like simple and creative, but also it's got that kind of like that beauty to it that only really seems to show up in indie games. So
Yeah.
yeah, that
Yeah.
one's awesome. The other game that stuck out to me is Soundfall. So this game is
Okay.
already out on Steam. I did look into it, and it looks kinda neat, like, it's like a looter shooter kind of like top-down RPG, and it's got co-op, which is neat. But the gimmick, I guess, or like the hook of the game is that it is all like music timing, so you have to shoot on beat. And what they said in the trailer, which was neat to me, is apparently the levels are generated based on what song you pick to play to. Which I think sounds really interesting, like, you're not just it's not just like you're playing a level and there's a song and you go along to it, like, the levels actually generate based off of the music, so I don't know what it's gonna be. I don't know
Right.
how intricate that would be, if it's just, like, genre or, like, like, how fast-paced it is, what kind of instruments, so I don't know how much depth there is to the game, but the fact that it's looks like it's got, like, couch co-op and it's a fun, like, rhythm-based kind of game, like, that it just looks like a blast for a couple evenings.
Yeah, I agree. I think that whole music thing is really cool. I would love a game like this, but you get to use your own music instead of just
Yeah.
the music the game gives you, and it could somehow generate based on, I don't know, the tempo or like whatever.
Yeah.
But that would
And
be like the ultimate.
that is really cool. I mean, I'm kind of interested, like, on Steam if, like, people can I don't know if this is a game that's big enough or would be easy enough for people to, like, mod that in, but
Mhm.
that's really cool. Like, I know in for Beat Saber, my friend has an Oculus, and we totally legally, got some modding software on there.
Yeah.
And so for Beat Saber, people have uploaded a bunch of songs. And like I don't think it's like automated. I think they actually had to like make the levels
Oh,
themselves to go with the
definitely,
music.
definitely.
But like it is so fun. There's like there's everything on there that you could possibly think of. And just how creative people got with the way that like you have to hit them like Gangnam Style makes you do like the Gangnam Style dance to the person that put it on there. And like the first time we played that, we were just like dying laughing because like the way that you have to dodge stuff while beat sabering, like, you just can't not do the dance if you wanna be accurate, and, like
Right.
so, yeah, stuff like that is hella cool, and, like so, yeah, this is on my list, like, Metal Hellsinger, like, the Doom version
Mhm.
of
Yeah,
this
there's
kind
been
of
a
game
few
is
of
on my list,
these type of things.
yeah, like, I like that this is a new kind of, like, subgenre that's emerging is, like, music-timed games.
Mhm. I want to shout out Gunbrella. I think this
Yeah.
one looks like a ton of fun. This
Mhm.
is from the same developer, I believe, from they said Gato Roboto, right? And that was kind of small Metroidvania style game where you play as a cat in a mech. And I haven't played it, but I heard a lot of people say that it was a good time. And this game to me is just very stylish. I like the idea of the umbrella being like your weapon and also a way you move around the world. Like it's got a lot of speed to it, the way you kind of slide along those railings or like power lines and stuff. It kind of
Mhm.
reminded me of actually a lot of the movement in oh, what's the game on the boat where you're helping people go to the afterlife?
Oh, Spiritfarer?
Spiritfarer. It reminded me of kind of the movement of that. And Spiritfarer actually had some pretty fun movement in it, despite not really being an action game. But if this feels kind of like that, or let's, I think that would be a really good feel for this game. And also just like sort of the setting of it, it's like a noir kind of cowboy type of vibe. And there's something really appealing about that setting to me. I really like it. And I know there's some mysteries and stuff you're sort of sleuthing around to solve as well. So I'd like to see more of this one. And I think this looks like it could actually be um standout game next year for
Hmm.
for in within the realm of like smaller indie stuff, not like game of the year. I mean,
Right.
in terms of like mid-sized indie, I think this looks great.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, that one's kinda cool. It does actually it actually look kinda neat. Um, Yeah,
You
I
got anything
think, like,
left?
aside from Gunbrella that stood out to me, so there was one, it was kinda weird, Wild Frost popped out, it
Okay.
was that, like, deck builder, and I made a note of it because I was like, "Oh, cool, it's the same guys that did Grindstone," which is that game,
Oh, really?
that, like, puzzle game that we quite liked. But I don't looking into it more, I am actually wrong, I think. It's not the same company. It just looks so incredibly similar with the art and, like, the way the levels are designed and, like, the hub town you go to, so I think I was shocked that they're not actually the same company, and so now I don't know how much I wanna play Wild Bronze because we liked Grindstone,
Yeah,
quite a
yeah.
bit,
You
so
know, the thing about that one is like I think I kind of agree with you that I'm getting kind of past the deck builder genre. Like I've gotten so
yeah,
into them, and I mean I'm playing Inscription right now, and it has deck building elements. It's a card game, but it's a lot more than that. And I think that going back to just another sort of deck building game after Inscription and after playing so much kind of Monster Train and Slay the Spire, I just don't know if I'm really up for another game in that genre. But if it was from the Grindstone people, I think that might be still be a play for me.
yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, like, I played a bit of Monster Train recently and, like, I think it's a great game and I love it, but I just can't sink the time into it like I could something like Slay the Spire because I think you're right, there is that little bit of fatigue, so I think I've kind of, like, put the put the brakes on that one,
You put your cards
I
back in the pack
yeah,
and you're
I
gonna
slowed my train down, I told the caboose to stop,
right.
and, I'm gonna save it for Inscription before I'm, like, really tired of that kind of a genre, but it's a shame because I love deck builders, like, I'm such a sucker for them, and
Yeah.
when I see them, I still have that pang of, like,
Ooh, maybe.
ooh,
Yeah,
shiny
me
new
too.
deck builder,"
Me
but
too.
then it's like I play it for now and I'm like, "Okay, I'm good."
Yeah, they're always
So
alluring, but it needs to have
they
something a little extra for me.
absolutely. I think there's one other game I wanna shout out, and it's a game I've already seen. I can't remember what presentation it's been at, but it's definitely been at some, is, the game SILT.
Okay, yeah,
It
yeah.
just
I hadn't
has
seen that
this
one before. I thought it looked pretty cool.
it's pretty cool. It's kind of like it's almost like a journey style game, but I'd say it's maybe a little bit more it's got some more puzzles, and interactables than something like Journey that's more of just kind of like the, like, visual experience. But it just looks really neat. Like, it's got this black and white, gray, like, palette, and you're exploring underwater, and it just some of the contrast between the way that they use like, those negative colors and some of the creatures that you seem to encounter look really beautiful, so it's one of those, like, "Oh, come to Game Pass, please," because, like, I think I wanna play you for 2 hours, and that's probably the entire length.
Yeah, right.
Um
Well, I got a few to shout out just rapid fire myself. I wanna shout
Mhm.
out, Mini Motorways. I played Mini
Yep.
Metro, near the start of the podcast, and, this is coming to Switch. I really wanna play it on my phone, actually, as funny as that is to say.
Mhm.
Like, it was just such a great experience with the touchscreen that I don't think I'd wanna play this with a joystick.
Right.
But Mini Metro was great. It's so fun to kinda connect those roads
Those
together and manage the
those
traffic.
those games to me are so funny because I see them pop up in videos a lot of, like, like, "Here's 10 indie games you should play," or, like, people's YouTubes of, like, "My favorite games of the year," or whatever, and there's just something about it, like, I just love watching it. I don't really wanna
Mhm.
play it, but it's so pleasing to look at that, like, I don't typically watch a lot of people play video games because, like, I just prefer to play myself and, like, I don't really get into the Let's Play kinda stuff, but, like, I would watch a Let's Play of Mini Motorways just because
Yeah.
it's so pleasing and like, oh, everything about
It's
it.
very aesthetically pleasing, and
Mhm.
just well, you get into this kind of zen mode when you're playing these games, and then you see the traffic patterns flowing, and you're kind of keeping track. Like, oh, this roundabout is getting a lot of traffic. Like, I need to make a new kind of bridge over to there. And you know what? It's just a really zen experience. And if this comes to mobile, I'm in for sure. So that's Mini Motorways. I also want to shout out one other game, which is Card Shark, and that's one that I've been talking about for a
Mm,
long time. We've seen it for I want to say coming up on like couple years now, but it's supposed to come out this summer. I think on June 2nd. There's a demo out now. I'll probably check it out maybe for our next episode, the podcast next week. But this game is about like playing cards in ye old England and learning how to cheat
mhm.
and learning tricks so you can get up to the king's table and like work your way up society by being a card shark, quite literally. And I just think that concept is so fascinating. It's published by Devolver, so I always have a kind of a higher expectation that they're going to put out something of pretty good quality. And Man, I'm just very excited for Card Shark. I also bought it in my fantasy critic league that I'm on, so I need some good reviews. Please, I'm not doing very well.
Hey,
Um, yeah.
it's apparently on sale on Steam right now,
Oh,
so
well, maybe I'll buy it.
there
Although I
you
don't know
go.
if I wanna play it. I had one other game I wanted to just quickly get your opinion on before we move along, which is Wayward Strand, and this is the game that was takes place in a flying hospital in the 1970s in rural Australia, and you're a
Mhm.
teen journalist, and you're kind of going through this flying hospital, and you are talking to people and sort of just uncovering a mystery. And I don't think the setting really does it for me. Like, I don't know what about 1970s rural Australia and kind of these people that's going to pull me in, but the game itself just, I loved the way that it looked and moved. It almost reminded me of a modernized Paper Mario, like the way you'd move through a doorway and the wall would fall down.
Right.
And I think a game sort of skinned like this and of this concept, but with a different setting and narrative, would be very, very fascinating. So I just wanted to see if you had any thoughts on that, because I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of a little bit of a barrier to this one. Like I really like the concept, but it didn't jump out to me for whatever reason. To me it kind of I think what it is like it's one of those very like story driven kind of just interact and like a very emotional looking game. And I think like I've got a couple of those on my list already, like Lake and Spiritfarer, that are just a little bit like higher up on the list.
Yeah.
And so this game looked good to me, but it didn't stand out as like something that I would be excited to play right now just because I've already got like a bit of a backlog for that
Hmm.
style of game. But I think like the setting of like the floating hospital actually sounds really neat. And I like the Australian influence just because I haven't really played anything in that setting. So just the difference in the variety appeals to me.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I didn't fall in love with the journalist character, which is maybe a little bit of a barrier.
Yeah. I just think it's cool how you can go talk to people, or you can eavesdrop on them, or you
Yeah.
can, do different things. It seems pretty open, and so like I said, if it was a different setting, maybe another take on this type of thing, it could be pretty. Anyway, that's the Nintendo Indie World, guys. We've spent a lot of time on that, so let's talk about our next topic. This is, of course, the new Resident Evil trailer. They've got a new Netflix, and it is a Netflix adaptation coming out. I think it's a TV show. I could be wrong. To be honest, I haven't looked too much into this, and I wanted to ask you about it because I know you are the Resident Evil fan between the two of us. On my behalf, I just think monsters actually looked. I'm not a huge zombie person when it comes to horror movies, but I actually think that the zombies and the creatures looked actually really cool in this trailer. So that's
Mhm.
kind of got me interested in watching it. But as a Resident Evil fan, Kate, I must ask you, what do you think about this?
Okay, well, I wanna scale that back. I've played the 2 most recent ones, so and I've enjoyed them. So I don't know if I would say maybe I'm a fan. I definitely wouldn't say I'm an expert. I don't know a lot of, like, the lore and, like, when, like, important characters made cameos in the last 2 games, like, I don't know. I know that guy's a big deal, but I don't know why. So, I can't say I'm gonna come to it with much of the perspective of, like, this I love Resident Evil specifically. And I'm not even, like, really big into zombies because I feel like that's a genre that is just so, like, plagued with too many,
It's plagued,
adaptations
nice.
these days. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So there's some fatigue there as well, but I like that we're getting a lot of new video game stuff, like, some of it's been pretty decent in adaptions to TV and movies, and I feel like I will like, there's not a chance in hell I'm not watching this, like, even if I don't seek it out myself, like, my friends that I played the Resident Evil games with will 100% wanna watch it, and, like, I'm on board, so we'll see. I've heard it's got, like, mixed ratings so far,
Well, I know they did a movie last year. I think it was Welcome to Raccoon City, and I don't know if that one did super well. So I don't know if this is kind of like going to be following more in the vein of that, or if this is something completely separate.
mhm, it looks separate to me as far as I know, um, I think it's, like, its own thing, and I think it's just, like, an 8 episode thing as well, so it's not gonna be, like, something they drag on. It seems like it's gonna be a pretty contained little mini series, which I like the idea of because that to me just screams a little bit more like we have a plan and there's quality versus, like, we're gonna make a season and see if we can get enough money to make another one.
Yeah.
And, like, the trailer was pretty good, I will give it that, like, I liked the song choice they put in, which is always kinda hit or miss in trailers, and it genuinely looked like it would have some really good creepy stuff, so
Yeah, it has a
I
playful nature to it too. That song
yeah.
at the end is kind of like a way different tone than you'd expect, and there's, you know, yeah, it just seems like there's a lot more to it than just running from zombies. Like they're kind of showing you how the virus gets started, and yeah, maybe some cool stuff. I'm gonna
Yeah.
watch it too. If you
Oh,
watch it,
good.
maybe I smell a bonus episode of podcast here on that. We
Deal,
still gotta watch
deal.
Uncharted, by the way.
Yeah, we
We are
gotta go
so
watch
behind.
Uncharted.
Gotta
That's
watch
right,
Uncharted.
I've been putting that off just, you know, maybe intentionally.
hmm Um, hey, there is a report as our next story that Sega is going to be releasing a lot of games in the coming year, and this includes a lot of remakes and remasters. Um, this article here from Push Square is saying that over the next 12 months, Sega plans to release what sounds like a whole lot of games, and says it wants to, quote, significantly increase in new titles, and apparently including multiple remakes and remasters. And so, Sega is obviously such a well-known company, has a lot of different games under their belt. Um, they've been, a big name for a long time, and I'm just wondering, with the talk of remakes and remasters, is there a certain game from Sega or games that you would want to see the most?
I mean, give us some Sonic Adventure remasters.
I am so glad
To
you
be
said that.
to be honest, I don't even know if realistically I want them because I feel like they probably hold up well enough that, like, I don't know if a remaster's worth it, but at
I
the
don't
same
know.
time, they probably don't play like I remember them, so maybe they do. But I also think I never played the original one. Like, we had Sonic Adventure 2,
Yeah,
and we played that game to death, but I never have touched the original, so, like, a remaster pack of those 2 would be, like, a pretty easy sell, I think.
I agree. I think that would be amazing. My hopes are so low for that, but also,
Right,
like,
yeah,
I,
it's
I feel like we'd have a better chance of getting Sonic Adventure 3 than we would a remaster
right.
of the originals. Like, I just think they're kind of past that, and it would be memeified because those games are known to be super buggy, and like, I just don't know if they're gonna go down that route. But it would be cool,
Mhm.
and I would buy it. Like, zero doubt about it. Would I buy that? Obviously, we got to mention Persona here,
Mhm.
being a franchise that they are kind of associated with. I would love to see a remastered or a remade version of like Persona 1 or 2, even 3, because 3 is only really accessible like on the Vita, or I think you can get it on the PSN as well, but it's just I would love to see a newer version, especially considering how smooth and slick 4 and 5 are. If they could kind
Yeah.
of bring the older ones in that level of quality, I would buy that in.
Yeah, you know what I would like to, because I didn't ever end up ever beating 4, which is a shame, I should go back and do it, but I found that, like, there were just so many conveniences that 5 had that 4 was missing, and
Mhm.
so what would be really nice, and maybe other people wouldn't want it because they like the game as it is and don't want it changed, but I would love, like, like, a golden remaster that, like, gave it some of the 5's quality of life. So,
Mhm.
like, being able to control, like, and, like, I think 3 as well could do with it too, like, controlling all of your party members instead of, like, just your main character, which I know
Yeah.
is, like, a big complaint, and, like, just some of the ways that, like, I found with 4, there was a little bit more, like, grinding required versus 5, I'd ever grinded at all, and, like, I went to Mementos and did side quests, but it didn't feel like grinding because I was doing things, whereas, like, in 4, there was definitely, like, why I stopped playing and lost a little bit of steam was I got against a boss, and it was like, I could play the boss fight for, like, 40 minutes because, like, he couldn't kill me, I had enough resources to stay alive, but I was doing, like, nothing in terms of damage, and, like, the obvious solution is, like, go grind a bit and come back, but we know how I feel about grinding, and that
Oh,
just
yeah.
kills my
I'm with you too.
immersion, and so, like, 5 just had such good pacing, and it was just so well balanced, like, even before Royal, I thought base 5 was just, like, a really smooth. I never felt like I was slowing down when I was playing that game, and so I'd love to be able to experience the other Personas with that kind of, like, atmosphere and that kind of pacing, but
Yeah. Amen. I'm so with you. The other one I wanted to just shout out quick that I would love to see, and this is my kind of niche pick that comes out of nowhere. Do you remember Trauma Center?
Sounds kind of familiar.
It was a game I had on the DS, and it was like an anime surgery game, and people would come in and
Okay.
you'd have to go on this touch screen and like cut, perform surgeries, but they were a little bit like
Mhm.
they weren't like realistic surgeries. They'd have infections that are sort of not real, and things would go kind of crazy, and you'd have it was actually a pretty challenging game, but I would love to see another take on Trauma Center. Just because it's like, when do you get to perform a surgery in a game, The only examples probably are like stupid VR things where you're having
Yeah, or
clumsy
like
hands and all this
Surgeon
stuff,
Simulator,
you
that's,
know?
like, meant to be a joke.
Exactly. Like I want this anime kind of difficult but precise surgery game with these crazy different problems people can have. I think that'd be a ton of fun. Um, Give it to me. Trauma Center.
That's honestly kinda cool. But that was a lot of, like, touchscreen work, right? Like, that was a
It
Wii thing
was.
and it had
It
or that
was.
was a DS thing and it had a lot of, like I remember actually now that you mention, I remember you'd, like, have to, like, stitch up a wound and you'd have to do the pattern and, like,
Exactly. Yeah.
like, wipe with alcohol rub or something and be on the screen, so that is actually kinda cool, yeah.
Yeah.
It was like
Um,
cooking like, those things are popular, like, Cooking Mama was a big thing, like, a lot of those,
right.
like, like, sim kind of, like, mini game, but, like, a little bit more specific kind of
Yeah,
stuff,
almost
and
like
that was
what
one of
if
them.
WarioWare's games were just expanded into one big game around one of the
Yeah.
mini games. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, like you're right, the touchscreen is so integral to that game. I don't know how good it would be. Are the Joy-Cons accurate enough to kind of do motion controls? I don't know. Um, but at the same time, I mean, come on, it's 2022. We can innovate a new
We
control
can figure
scheme,
it
folks.
out.
We can
We'll
figure it
figure
out,
it
okay? We can figure it out.
out.
We have one last story for the day today, Kate, before we get to the fun one at the end. And this is that Gotham Knights will no longer be released on PS4 and Xbox One, despite the game was previously supposed to come out on last gen and this gen. But I mean, for both of us, Gotham Knights isn't a game I think we're really really looking forward to. But I think it's interesting that a precedent has kind of been set that a game that was previously announced for both generations is now just being moved over to the current gen. And so I wonder, do you think this could be a trend? Like, is something that I mean, I guess it's not really going to affect us for this game, but it's interesting to see a game get shifted in its release. Like, you'd think they've put hundreds of hours of work between their different employees on making this version, and they're just scrapping it apparently. And it's kind of interesting to see, especially since the game's supposed to come out like later this year.
Yeah, it's kind of late in development to announce that, and, like, that sucks for people who are looking forward to it and, like, they haven't they're just sitting on a PS4 or something, so I understand that sucks. I think it's just one of those things, though, that it's just kind of inevitability, it's gonna start happening, and there's some games that I'm surprised aren't exclusive, especially, like, first party stuff, I feel like that's always, like, where it hits the most, is like, "Okay, next God of War" like, God of War is coming to PS4 as well, I think, right?
Yeah,
And so,
yeah.
like,
Well, so did Horizon. So did
as a
most games.
Horizon
I think like Miles Morales was even on PS4. I think there's only a couple that have been
I think
exclusive.
Returnal is
Returnal. Yeah,
one of the big ones, and Demon's Souls,
yeah.
I believe, is also
Sackboy.
yeah, so there are a few, and it's just gonna kinda slowly roll in, but I don't know. There's pros and cons, like, it's hard to say, like, I'm in the bias area where, like, it being on PS4 means nothing to me because I've got the 5 and it's unnecessary, but at the same time, like, they're still selling PS4s, and so it's kind of
Well,
a
there's so
bummer
many
if, like
people who can't get a PS5, and having it on
yeah.
PS4 would be great. So it's got to be a resources thing, right? Like they clearly it seems like, okay, our choice is we can either delay the game or scrap the other version, and who knows what the reasoning is, but it seems to me like by scrapping the older version, they're saying like, look, we really need to hit this date of October
Yeah.
2022
Well,
or whatever it
yeah,
is.
partially resourcing, and I think also too the reason they do it is so they can make a better like experience for whatever console it is. So that's why it's stuff like Returnal. It's like, oh, it runs like so fucking amazing. It's got so like crazy controller support because like they wouldn't have to develop and like make it run on anything else. We could make it like so much more next gen and whatever. But like when a game like Gotham Knights is coming out, like that does I'm sure like I'm not an expert. I'm sure that factors into it. But at the same time, like you're making it for PC and like PC is gonna have like like, do you wanna run it on ultra high or do you wanna run it on low settings? So, like, there's already gotta be those kind of, like,
Yeah,
incremental but I think console's probably, like, harder to develop for, it's more specific, so maybe that it is more work to do it that way.
I mean, I totally agree. I think there's a lot of merit to something like Returnal being developed just for the PS5. I think the only difference is Returnal was never announced for PS4, and
Yeah,
then said they're no longer doing it. Like,
yeah,
if they had
yeah,
had that vision from the start of wanting to make it the best it could be, I feel like they should never have said it was coming to the older consoles. And so,
yeah.
like,
This
I could
this is
feel
a
being burned if I
backup.
was someone who hasn't upgraded or hasn't had the ability to upgrade. And then, big Batman fan. Obviously, it's a huge franchise,
Yeah.
and kind of, I would feel kind of burned a little bit getting it taken away from me.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it is a bummer because that is definitely, like, how it's gonna be perceived is that, like, it's like, there's a very big difference psychologically when it's, like, something isn't available versus something is no longer available,
mhm, mhm.
and that's gonna suck for a lot of people, so it's a shame they had to do it. I don't know, like, it's just so much speculation, right? It's like, is it the developer's choice? Is it, like, who made this call? The publisher? Like, eh.
Yeah, a lot of things that we could factor in, I guess. But maybe we'll
We
never
don't
know, Kate. Maybe we'll
We'll
never
never
know.
know. The game does look kinda cool, though, I will say. I watched the trailer. I don't like,
Yeah,
it's probably not my kinda style of thing. If I'm gonna play a superhero game, I'm playing Guardians of the Galaxy.
right.
But it
Uh,
it generally does look kinda cool. I like Gun Robin. Was a character I wasn't familiar with, is like, they're all fucking Batman guys, so, like, we got poles, we got sticks, and then there's one guy shows up, he's got 2 guns. Like, what is he doing here?
you know what? That
So,
game, I think it looks better than I initially thought, but I'm with you too.
yeah.
And the other thing too that I'm glad to see at least is that it really seemed like it was gonna be, looter kind of play the same levels over and over again type of thing and grind your characters. And it seems like they're saying it's not like that, like it's not sort of an MMO type of deal. And so I think that that's like a good thing for the game, but at the same time, we'll have to wait and see. It does have some
Mhm.
of those type of elements, the multiplayer focus of it. How story driven can it be? Um, you know, Depending which characters, like what if the characters don't make sense in terms of the story? Like it's one of those where the second player just doesn't show up in the cutscene. Like that can be kind of weird. All those different
Yeah,
questions.
like, "Oh, we gotta do this pacifist mission," like, the second player's sitting there with gun guy, and he's like, "Ooh,
Yeah. Oh dear.
whoopsies."
Oh man. All right, let's get into our last news story, which is something I found, and this isn't so much a funny story as it is just like, holy fuck, this is impressive. So I wanted to highlight it. So over on GameSpot, I found an article about a guy, and I think his name is Bohadori or something. I think his maybe an online name or like a YouTuber. Um, I should have probably looked into that. But anyway, this guy has beaten all 12 mainline Assassin's Creed games without taking any damage in the process, working all the way from Assassin's Creed up to Valhalla. And holy shit, he also played on the highest difficulty settings available. 100% synchronized, no reloads, no restarts, no glitches. Uh, like, what the hell? Like this is such a long series to do. They're saying that he took practicing for each run was about 100 hours per game. And Valhalla, because it's such a big open world game, was 800 hours of practice time, let alone actually completing all these runs. And like, God forbid if he made a mistake and got hurt in one of these and had to restart. Like,
Mhm.
oh my God, that's just maybe the most insane feat I've ever heard in terms of like endurance and commitment.
Yeah, that is insane, like, sure, the Assassin's Creed aren't, like, necessarily the most difficult games, but, like, you play any game for 100 hours and don't accidentally make a mistake, like, doesn't matter what game it is, that's insane.
Yeah,
So yeah, just fucking props, I guess, man,
I
like,
know.
that's awesome.
I watched like part of this. Obviously, I mean, I'm just clicking through sort of how the hell do you know when he's doing something difficult? Like you're just going through hundreds of hours of video. But I mean, yeah, I just don't know how you'd do something like this. Like, how would you find the time to practice 800 hours of one game and then also do the other 11 games for 100 hours each? Like, man, that's a lot. Good, like props to this guy. I hope he earned a lot of money on like Twitch donations, and the
Mhm.
YouTube of this must just go crazy. Um, yeah. If you had to do this for a game series, Kate, what would you make it? What would you do? Would it be Dark
If
Souls?
I had to do hit list, death list?
Would it be Dark Souls?
I mean, that's, like, a series I would, like, want to do because it's cool and I love them so much, but Hitless in all the soul like, not taking the like,
Yeah.
I don't think I could do it. I honestly, like, I would spend 800 hours doing, like, one game to take it without damage, and, like, I think it would just make me hate them because,
Right.
like, I couldn't like, it just sounds so incredibly tedious to, like, practice to that level of perfection.
Yeah,
So,
and to
like, I don't
understand the
know.
game so intricately that it
Yeah.
almost like it's not a game anymore at that point. You're kind
Yeah,
of just running through this simulation of
exactly.
something
So,
that you
like,
know.
I think I'd, like, have to cop out and pick something, like, quick and easy, but, like, that defeats the purpose, so I don't know, what would you do?
And two things came to my mind immediately. Um, this is totally different, but I would love to say that I've played through every single song on the hardest difficulty in Guitar Hero and like hit every note. Like that would be
That's
really cool.
awesome. That'd be cool.
And the other one I thought of would be because it made me think of back like we answered the question of like what's our biggest gaming accomplishment. Like, I beat Contra without the Konami code. I would
Right.
love to say that I've been through every Contra game without getting hit because that would be just bonkers hard. Uh, but that would be cool, right?
That would be awesome. I think if I had to do this, I'd cheat and just do, like, a single game, like, I'd do something like Fury. Like, couple hours, you can beat it, and, like, it's got, like, the Furious difficulty mode that's, like, super hard, but it's like, maybe if you really just practice, like, all, like, 8 bosses, however many there are, and then got flawless, like, that would be a cool achievement. And maybe, like, a little bit more manageable, but
Oh, a little
jeez,
bit, just a
a
little.
little bit.
Wow. Well, if you would like to write in and let us know what game series you would play through on a perfect run on the hardest difficulty for 800 hours of practice, then please do so to circlesandsquarespod@gmail.com. And of course, if you would rather get on touch with us on Twitter, we're over there as well at CNSPod. Of course, the links are down below wherever you're listening to the episode. Thank you again for taking the time to chat about this news with us today. And like we said at the top of the show, if you're interested in Detroit Become Human, go check out our most recent episode of the podcast last week. And we'll be back again, I guess, next Monday to talk about the games we've been playing, including Curse of the Dead Gods from PS Plus. We both played a bit of that, have some interesting opinions. So look forward to us next week. And again, thank you for the support, and we'll see you very soon.